Like many of you, I became interested in the Glock 48 when I learned that I could use Shield Arms mags to increase the flush magazine capacity from 10 rounds with Glock mags to 15 flush with the Shield Arms mags, with the option to then add an extension and carry 20 plus one. But I had some serious issues with my first generation of magazines. So in this video, I'm going to be updating you guys on how my Gen 2 mags have worked out throughout the last 4,000 rounds and how the Gen 3s have been working out thus far. I'll quickly go over the issues I had with my first generation of mags. I received my first Shield Arms mags in November of 2020 and had my first catastrophic magazine failure after just a month of use. This happened at the end of a 2-day 600 round class. The mags didn't see any serious abuse. They were dropped from shoulder height onto the dirt, but not only is that to be expected, but this also wasn't done so in any kind of aggressive manner. Magazines should be able to get dropped from shoulder height. We finished the class, and as we were packing up, my 20 round magazine quite literally exploded from my belt. It was honestly kind of comical, and I wish I'd been able to get it on video. 20 rounds of 9mm just exploding from my belt, scattered everywhere, and I think the base pad was found like 20 feet behind me. Sure enough, the edges that held the base pad on sheared off entirely, and Shield wound up replacing that mag. Fast forward to almost exactly a year later, I was finishing up day 2 of a 2-day practical performance class with Tim Herron, and the exact same thing happened again with another Gen 1 20 round mag. So of course I contacted Shield Arms again, and they went ahead and just replaced all of my Gen 1 magazines with the Gen 2s, saying that I must have just received multiple magazines from a bad heat treated batch, which was what caused the edges to shear off. To be clear though, I never had any issues with my first generation of 15 round magazines, including no issues with malfunctions, and I've always used their metal mag release. I'd also estimate that my Gen 1 magazines saw about 4,000 rounds from November of 2020 to November of 2021. That round count being dispersed between 5 magazines, 3 20 round and 2 15 round mags. Now on to the update with the Gen 2s. Since receiving my Gen 2s in the beginning of 2020, I have put approximately 4,000 rounds through 2 15 round mags and 3 20 round mags with almost no issues to report. I had virtually zero malfunctions with these mags until very recently when I had a single failure to feed issue, and I'm not really sure why that happened. I haven't been able to replicate it. So other than that single failure to feed, I have not had any other malfunctions or catastrophic failures with the second generation of Shield Arms magazines. Depending on who you ask, 4,000 rounds in a year is a lot or hardly any at all. So you should definitely do with this information what you will. This is your personal risk assessment on whether or not you're comfortable using these magazines in a concealed carry capacity. However, I really don't see anything wrong with just using these in a training environment. Like anything else, it's important to test something before incorporating it into your concealed carry rotation. I will say though that the finish on the Gen 2s is a little bit sticky and it wears out quickly. If I were going to buy more, I'd probably try to get the nickel ones. Finally, onto the Gen 3s. Shield Arms sent me 2 15 round Gen 3 mags back in February of this year, and since then I've put about 800 rounds through both of them without issue. However, I didn't receive any 20 round mags, which is where I had issues with my first generation of mags, as we've already discussed, so I can't really speak to the reliability of the Gen 3 20 round magazines. I'm aware that Shield Arms has made a few pretty big changes with their third generation of mags, starting with a completely new manufacturer. I'm not sure who is making their mags now, but I do know that they're made in the US and that they made the switch in part due to the QC issues that they were having in the past. As far as changes to the actual magazines go, they've added some dimples to the backside of the mags that are supposed to hold the magazine in the same position as a Glock magazine would. They also switched to a new steel that is slightly thicker than the Gen 2s, which also allowed them to then change the heat treat spec and do a black nitrile coating. In my experience, the coating still comes off somewhat easily, the same way that the Gen 2s did. However, the actual feel is nicer and not gummy the same way that the Gen 2s were. I realized that putting just 800 rounds through the 2 Gen 3 mags that I have really isn't a whole lot, but I figured that this was probably a good time to update you guys on my Shield Arms magazine experience, as I've honestly just been shooting the Glock 48 less and less since switching to the P365 for concealed carry purposes and the Walther Q5 for competition purposes. And that's my full Shield Arms magazine update. This video was simply an update on my personal experience with these mags, and to be clear, this video is not me telling you what you should do for your own use case and concealed carry purposes. Only you can make your own risk assessment here. I'm simply providing you with more information to work with to help you make that choice. That said, unless anything drastic changes with these magazines, this will probably be my last update on them. So thanks guys for watching. Please comment below with any questions, and I'll see you guys in the next video.